sweet to walk in. It's like, oh, there's a room full of Buddhas here. I mean, it really felt that way. And then you were all here, and that was, and I'll also just do a confession is, I can't remember the first time, but it was today too. You probably know how when you get on the phone and you keep getting passed from person to person, you get a little crabby. I mean, maybe that's just me, but I'm trying really hard to be kind and bodhisattva-like, but clear, and then somebody came on who was so kind. Just realize how much we affect each other. Which is, since we're talking about friendship, which has to do with relationship and being in relationship with each other, I thought that, well, Buddha just gave me a little lesson that I could reinforce with all of us. Joni, I think everyone knows that Joni Goldsmith died last Friday?
Yes, Friday evening.
Last Friday evening. Some of us gathered and helped decorate at, Debbie's calling it the box. It's a beautiful box that she'll go into the fire in tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. People who want to come, we've been given permission to do a kind of circumambulation and ceremony in the courtyard, and it sounds like anyone is welcome to come to that, carpool if you can. And then there will just be a few of us who go into a smaller room where we'll witness the box with Joni in it going into the fire, and it's at Pleasant Hill Mortuary Crematorium.
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Yeah. Precepts tonight. We altered it because I'm going to be away next week. And while I am away, this Thursday and next week, we're talking about Dharma friendship, spiritual friendship, and it seems really wonderful to me that 4 Dharma friends are going to, Sangha mates are going to be leading the Sangha together. So Marilyn and I know their names, and Sherry and Kristen and Rachel. I knew that. will be leading, and I actually, this is a little for them. I have 2 great books because I'm going to bring forward another book that I had forgotten. That how wonderful it is. So I'll bring that forward today, and you guys can have both of them while I'm gone. September 8th, all-day sit with the Jukai in the afternoon. 6 wonderful bodhisattvas taking their Jukai vows. That's pretty special and wonderful. And I think that's probably enough announcements for right now. Spiritual friendship, being in relationship. I think this is my theory. Maybe it doesn't have anything to do with all of you, but in the early days of Zen, I think a lot of us, well, and I still think it happens, is that people one of the reasons people come to Zen is we want to be with other people, but we actually don't really want to talk to anybody. I'll just sit on my own little cushion, thank you, and I'll look at the floor, and everything's fine, just fine. It's really not fine, and Sangha is like, well, that's a stretch, it's like, but I think we're doing a much, in my humble opinion, a much better job of being in relationship and coming into relationship as human beings and actually talking to each other and sharing our lives. Zen is being brought into the West in the 21st century through each one of us. I want to begin with, and we had put this in the newsletter, and you could find it again. It's such a beautiful essay by Norman Fisher about spiritual friendship. When I read it again, I wanted to bring forward parts of it, so we can hear it together. And then last week I talked a little bit from Radical Friendship, Kate Johnson. We talked about friendship and relationship with the body, but she's got a lot of really good, wonderful things that I know will be brought forward while I'm away. And the other is that for those, the reason I thought of this other resource is for those who went to help decorate the box. Debbie has she made a really beautiful big board with pictures of Joni and tied it together with the jewel net of Indra.
Oh.
And this book just happens to be called Casting Indra's Net, Fostering Spiritual Kinship and Community, Wisdom from Buddhism, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, and More by Pamela Ayu Utende, who I've heard talk, and who has a foreword by Resma Manickam. So when I found this, I thought, well, I wondered why I didn't think of this before, but I thought of it just in the nick of time, since that's, and you guys can unfold it too. But let me just start with, even if you're like me, even if you've read something or think you know something, it's like every time you hear it, it comes in a different way. You hear something maybe you didn't hear before. So I'm going to read just a little bit of Norman Fisher's essay from 2016. Once the Buddha's disciple Ananda asked him about friendship. Ananda knew that having good and encouraging friends was very important for the path. He even wondered whether having good friends is half the path. No, Ananda, the Buddha told him, having good friends isn't half the holy life. Having good friends is the whole of the holy life. The Meghiya Sutra is my favorite Pali text about friendship. It tells the story of the eager young monk Meghiya who wanted to practice meditation alone in an especially peaceful and beautiful mangrove grove. But Meghiya's meditation was anything but peaceful and beautiful. To his shock, he found his mind a snarl of malicious, lustful, and confused thoughts, probably because his practice was too self-involved. We've all had periods like this on the cushion, and it probably arises at least once, self-centered, self-involved thoughts and emotions every time you sit down on the cushion. We're people, of course. When Meghiya rushed back to report his confusing experience, Buddha was not surprised. He took the opportunity to give Meghiya what he must have hoped was a relevant teaching. 5 things induce release of heart and lasting peace, the Buddha told him. First, a lovely intimacy with good friends. Second, virtuous conduct, precepts. Studying the precepts tonight and forever. Third, frequent conversation that inspires and encourages practice. Fourth, diligence, energy, and enthusiasm for the good. And fifth, insight into impermanence. Then for Meghiya's further benefit and to cement the point, the Buddha goes through the list again, this time preceding each of the other items with the first. When there is a lovely intimacy between friends, then there is virtuous conduct, and so on. In other words, friendship is the most important element in the spiritual path. Everything else naturally flows from it. Guess we have to be in relationship with each other after all. So I'm just going to do a summary of a little bit of what's in the article, and then you can find it if you want to read the whole thing. For those on the Bodhisattva path, loving and appreciating your friends, even when they are difficult, as they sometimes are, shocking, is the path's fullness and completion. Friendship ripens and deepens our capacity for compassion. In the Buddhist path, spiritual friendship takes place in the context of community. Sangha. That's how we do it. Together. Triple treasure. I take refuge in Buddha, I take refuge in Dharma, I take refuge in Sangha. I think that's amazing.
Mhm.
That right there on the ground. In Sangha life, friendship develops much more slowly than in worldly friendships. You know, it's like, well, who are you? How are you? And let me tell you my life history. And I mean, in the early days at Zen, we knew each other for years and didn't even, I mean, it was amazing when we started talking to each other how much we didn't know about each other. But I think here we know, and the way Seeking Mind talks really help with that. But the thing that does happen, and always has happened, and is most important in the fundamental way, is what's different in these Sangha friendships, relationships from worldly relationships, is that we know each other in silence. And we know each other through our bodies. We know each other just through the body language, facial expression. We know each other's hands and feet. Isn't that amazing when we know each other's feet? And we know all these things. Just on a deep, intuitive level. And we know you guys on screen too, because we know your little boxes and we know your faces. And something does happen energetically. The question of a disparate group coming together. Often Sangha people, you end up with people that you would never choose to associate with in the world. You know, you just, and then suddenly you're all in the same room, and so you get to rub shoulders. And although Buddhism completely is open and encourages diversity and equity, and we've got a lot of work to do, as we well know. How do we know and encourage? We're sitting with the whole world here. The Buddha believes that spiritual friendship requires two elements, truth and tenderness. Spiritual friends are honest with each other. You take risks. I think often in small groups, I hope this happens, you're surprised that you're sharing something. Maybe you didn't even know yourself. Or maybe you never trusted somebody else to say something. And tenderness. There is a tenderness. I notice that I am more and more able to say and do courageous things because I trust my own tenderness. When I'm angry, I mean, anger arises, trust me. But when I'm walking around in one of my angry, whatever's they are, I'm much more inclined to sit on my own energy because I don't want to hurt anybody. But when you can find and know the ground of tenderness, then you just more trust spontaneous response and whatever happens. It's actually, that's to me is one of the most amazing things about this practice. And in Mahayana Buddhism, the Bodhisattva clearly sees that no one can be happy or content while others are suffering. There is no individual awakening, no one can be happy, no one can be enlightened unless everyone is happy and enlightened. Self and other are not two truly different existing entities. They are mutually conditioned positions or concepts. What we call a person is in reality a series of interactions and relationships. There you go. And we'll see a little bit more the way Pamela Ayo Utende articulates this in a minute. There is no atomized, freestanding person. This is completely obvious to bodhisattvas. That is why love, compassion, and friendship are at the center of the bodhisattva path. That is why the Buddha of the coming era is called Maitreya, the Buddha of the practice of friendship. Isn't that cool? The coming Buddha? I mean, that's written into the ancient texts, is that's the era that we're in. That's the era that we're bringing into existence. And looking around at the world, we've got a lot of work to do, but things change and are changing. Nice people seem to be running for office, and so go figure. Anything's possible. Okay, so casting Indra's net, fostering spiritual kinship and community. Part of why I like to do these things is I just like bringing other voices here, and Resma. Am I saying his name right? Resma Menakem? Menakem is an African American black man who wrote My Grandmother's Hands, which is a really beautiful book about somatic healing, and has gone on and is doing lots of stuff. But in the foreword, he says, it's called Gold into Platinum. Welcome to your body, to human beingness, and to the field of existence. Welcome to your kinship with all humanity. Welcome to the ongoing challenge of transforming the interpersonal into the communal.
To the what?
Communal. Relationship, spiritual friendship. Welcome to the alchemical process of turning the gold that is you into the platinum that is us. Welcome to the ever-emerging opportunity to build a community of healing and mutuality. That's what Sangha is. And that's what we practice here, because the whole world is Mahasangha. Everything is Sangha. We just practice here with each other because we got a few little bumps in the road, but we know there's lots of bumps out there. So this is a really good, safe place to practice knowing the self, which is to see more what she has to say. We are all kin. We all have some of the same mitochondria as our great mother, a woman who lived in southern Africa about 200,000 years ago. We all also share the same bigger body. Our human bodies all come from the same source and the same elements that in many cases are also found in the stars. You know, it's amazing. Yeah, but I'm really important. And I am really important. So are you. But so's everything else. This bigger body, Indra's net, creates our inescapable mutuality and also creates an ever-present, all-important challenge. This is from Io. We were conceived into the net, born into it, and exist within it. We will die in its entanglements. Isn't that beautiful? You can't get out of being entangled. In the meantime, can we enhance the ways we live in this vast and abundant community of kin, near and far? Okay, it's a good book, huh? Mm-hmm. She's speaking right at us. Martin Luther King, in the introduction, finding our place in the network of mutuality. This is the first paragraph, or few lines. And don't forget, in doing something for others, that you have what you have because of others. Don't forget that. We are tied together in life and in the world, and you may think you got all you got by yourself, but you know, before you got out here to church this morning, and then he goes on and on about the cup of coffee and the this and the that, and on and on. The whole world brought you to this moment. Spiritual friends with the whole world. Now this is the core part of what I want to bring forward of what she talks about. talks about a kind of primal wound of insufficiency and unworthiness that manifests as grandiosity, as a way of defending one's ego against re-experiencing the lack of empathy from others. And our friends and the others are, of course, I mean, it's just amazing how much our family systems get reproduced everywhere. You know that, don't you? A person really friend. Oh my God, that person's just like my mother. I mean, this is just, we do this. This is everybody's a mirror. So she suggests through Kohut 2 methods that we can help to wake up in this entanglement, called mirroring and twining. Mirroring is when someone reflects to another that they are worthy of respect. That's what a good friend does, a spiritual friend. And twining is a way of conveying that you share similar traits, even narcissistic ones. Even those things that you think that other person is doing that is driving you crazy, you might actually have some of the same traits. That you share similar traits with the person who is immersed in grandiosity. This helps them not to feel, oh, interesting this word is here, weird. Not to feel weird or isolated in their sense of self. And importantly, this holds true even if it's a person who would never confess their vulnerability to anyone and may not be in touch with it themselves. It's like, don't wait to be vulnerable for the other person. Just stand on your own 2 feet. And so here's some contemplations, ways to imagine being a good spiritual friend that come out of this. 1. You ready? Cultivate a non-anxious presence. Cultivate a non-anxious presence. To whatever extent you can connect with non-anxious presence, bring that calm to those who are struggling with their suffering. It will be a balm and an inspiration. Breathe. Ground. That's a great one, isn't it? 2, practice deep perception. We act with deep perception when we listen deeply, affirm emotional experience, validate rather than judge, encourage and inspire, reveal bright eyes and a smile, share appreciation, share blessings for a fortunate future, encourage wisdom teachings, and warn against the dangers of engaging in violence. We could pick up any one of these and spend a good amount of time with these. Here's some steps to follow. Observe. Observe your thoughts and emotions about different groups of people. Observe any sense of entitlement, resistance, or fear that arises. And above all, observe how your physical impulses inform your beliefs and vice versa. It's just endless watching what arises. Whew. 2, be curious. Curious. That's enough for there. Step 3, recognize human complexity. Using curiosity, we learn that we are complicated and complex, that other human beings are complicated and complex. and notice that one's own human template might be experienced as an imposition on another human's template. Be curious. It is just shocking that other people are not us. On a fundamental level, they are. But I am constantly shocked and amazed that not everybody believes what I believe or sees the world the way I do. 4, form intentions towards the good. That's why we do bodhisattva vows. There is a difference between intent and impact. Forming intentions toward the good is about being thoughtful before acting, and acting or refraining from acting so as to try to bring about positive results for the other. Whoa! To bring positive results for the other? That turns the world upside down. 5, acknowledge imperfection. We can check our intentions through an internal dialogue that surveys the variety of responses we can have to another. We can then remind ourselves that our objective, fundamental objective, is not to cause harm. Wow. And choose the behavior or behaviors that we will believe will be most beneficial to the other. It's almost kind of shocking to read these things. They're so radical and so simple. 6, see others as kin. Take a leap of faith to believe that somewhere, somehow, we are deeply related, even in the midst of our differing appearances and beliefs. Seeing each other as kin on an instinctual level means I recognize you as a relative and thereby hold the potential to care about you. 7, transform your narcissism. Because we are imperfect beings using ourselves as templates for how to treat other imperfect beings, we run into the risk of narcissism, believing that who we are, what we believe, and how we act is the superior way to be and to live. I would almost assume, especially when we're in a reactive state of mind, that that's where we're coming from. That's why we practice. Come back, take a breath. There's a whole infinite, mysterious, alive world here. And then work harder and make a greater investment in self-transformation in order to bring about good. Step 8, cultivate selflessness. Interpathy. Interpathy is a word coined by a theologian that means being able to enter a second culture cognitively and effectively to perceive and conceptualize the internal coherence that links the elements of the culture into a dynamic interrelatedness. Well, that's a lot of words. Let's go down here. Selflessness increases our capacity to be present for another's needs. Step 9. Speak the truth for the benefit of others. We strengthen our egos enough to handle hearing truths that might be difficult to hear, even those that concern ourselves. It also helps us to tell difficult truths to others while maintaining the intention to bring about beneficial outcomes. There's 11 of these, we're almost there. 10, practice appreciative listening. Form the intention to listen to others with the ears of appreciation. appreciating the fact that no matter what is initially said, we are taking in the miracle of a unique human being. It can lead to a kind of awe that increases curiosity. It's a type of listening that invites others out of their fear of being shamed or exploited and into flourishing revelation, insight, genuine friendship, and solidarity. Well, you start to get the sense we actually have some power in this crazy world. I mean, each one of these things, profoundly each moment, is transformative. And step 11. Witness the expansive potential in others. There's actually 12 steps. No, there's 20. No, sorry. I'd start with witness the expansive potential in yourself, in this self. This is all pointing at something that each one of us can practice moment after moment. Develop our faith in the capacity of humans to change and evolve. The whole world's changed in the last few weeks, which is what's happening all the time. Most of the time we just don't notice. It invites us to see ourselves and others beyond our superficial and temporary presentations. It inspires goodness and the vanishing of negativity. And number 12, this really is the end. Rest, reflect, recharge, return. 4. Rest, reflect, recharge, return. Big circle. Takes us right back to the first step. Observe, be curious, recognize complexity, form intentions for good. Just goes round and round. Rest. Come back. Zazen. What is it? What is it? What's really happening here? Recharge. Take a breath. You notice somebody said something to me today, and I held my breath. But I noticed. And then I breathed. And then something different happened. And just keep returning. I think that's a really beautiful, numbered assessment and offering about spiritual friendship. About the gift that we can give each other in Sangha, we can give our partners, we can give our children, we can give, don't think that what we're saying to people on TV or in the news isn't impacting someplace. This is our bodhisattva job. Okay, so let's go into small groups. Let's talk about this. And maybe if you want to, you can pick up any one piece of it, but